Do you think it's better to learn a language in a university or learn it in another country?
So I would say there's a couple factors I would take into account. The first one being age, because I think that obviously as children, you are just born into a country that natively speaks that language, and you'll grow up and you'll speak it natively. So if you are young enough where you can do that, I think that's always the best choice. But I would say for someone who's a bit older, I think the structure that universities can provide would probably suit them better than just full immersion therapy. But like Chris.
All right, how about you?
So I think that it probably would be a little easier to learn a language by being immersed in the culture because there's a lot of nuance to language in general. So you have to be in the culture to be able to understand what they're saying and what the meaning behind what they're saying is. Because when sometimes you have a phrase in English, it means something completely different than what you would think it means literally. So I think a lot of languages have that different structure and different grammar. So it helps to be able to hear it from other people and how it's utilized in their country. But again, university, they do a really good job of being able to teach you the actual reasons for why the language is structured in a certain way. So it gives you a better understanding of why it's that way, but then also being able to speak. I feel like being fluent, you're better just being immersed. And
I
that makes
definitely
sense.
wouldn't recommend though going to college just to learn a language, like getting a major in it, because like you're not going to get a job through that. And going through immersion therapy, like going to a country or learning it by yourself, just like studying it every day, that's I feel like that's the best way because you're putting yourself in a spot where you have to learn it.
I wouldn't necessarily say that getting a degree in a language is a useless degree because obviously there's people who get doctorates in Spanish or any other foreign language and then go to teach those languages in colleges in the United States of America, especially with languages that are going to be used like for people in America specifically. Obviously, English speakers in Europe is a whole different ballgame because they're next to so many different countries, but French and Spanish in America are really versatile. And I think that professors who go and get doctorates in those languages and who live in those countries are really useful to American institutions. Not a useless degree.
All right.
So can you repeat the question?
So, is it better to go to college for learning a language or doing or going to another country and learning it that way?
It depends. Um, Personally, I think it depends on what the purpose is of you learning the language. If your goal in learning a language is to be able to go to a country and be fully immersed and live there, then just go there. Because the structure that is being taught in a classroom, depending on the language, doesn't necessarily translate. Um, in my experience, going to multiple Spanish speaking countries, and having no Spanish education over 2 years of doing that with the military, it's it's valuable. I learned a lot of Spanish, and then I lost it immediately when I stopped using it. But I wouldn't also like discredit getting a language degree because like I live with a guy he's a senior in college. He studied Russian for 4 years, never studied Russian beforehand. He learned how to speak Russian the first year in college.
Can you speak fluently?
He can.
Oh,
He
that's
just
cool.
passed the Fulbright fluent local fluency test to go and teach English in Kazakhstan. But he spent most of his junior and senior year doing things like reading books and writing book reports on old Russian literature and reading Russian legal documents and better understanding how their legal system is set up. So I think it depends. If your goal is to speak with people, go speak with people. If your goal is to understand something specific within their culture that requires a lot of reading, um, then absolutely go get a degree. We need experts in language just like we need experts in anything else.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
Aiden, any thoughts?
No thoughts, Aiden?
So I also really thought that was well put. It definitely depends because what you're trying to get out of learning a language, if you're trying to learn from another culture, then the best way to learn from that culture is to be in that culture. But that being said, it's definitely a good idea to do your research and be well versed and understand the language itself by learning from people that are experts in that field. So it's through a university, if somebody were to say get that degree in a language, it would be very useful to learn from somebody that has that experience.
Yeah. Agree with
I
that,
have
too.
something else.
Yeah.
So, like, I took German for 5 years from 8th grade all the way up to my senior year in high school. And I got to the point where I was actually really well, like, as far as in comparison to my classmates who could speak German, I was pretty okay. And I was doing, like, the whole, like, state tests. It was a couple that got selected from my high school and go and compete. But if you drop me off in Germany, I don't think I'd speak a lick because they all speak in dialects. You know what I mean? So I knew High German, but it just doesn't quite translate. So I absolutely agree with Noah. It depends. If you're going to go live in Germany, I would be in a rough spot. I mean, it just wouldn't have translated the way that it would have if I just lived in Germany for
Yeah.
sure.
I think also like go to a country not just for the language. Go because you really want to go there, and the language can be learned, and that's like a plus. There's so many pluses to going to a country. I've never been to another country actually, so and I don't know it too well personally.
I think somebody asked me the other day, a younger classmate of mine asked me, like, he was frustrated because his parents moved to a different state while he left for college. And he was like, I don't have a home anymore. And I said, then go and travel to 5 different states and 5 different countries because it'll change the way you look at everything. So travel everywhere just for fun. You're completely right about the dialects. I spent a summer in Ireland in a language immersion program, and anyone who was taught to speak Irish in a school, if you found a college in the U.S., Notre Dame teaches Gaelic studies and language, and there are 3 different dialects, and they don't teach you one of the 3, which means when you get there, you know a lot of Irish and don't know how to speak to anybody. Which doesn't help. Like, I can say I know Ulster Gaelega. I don't know anything outside of Ulster Gaelega. I don't know Scots Gaelega. But yeah, the Naval Academy, one of the like better schools in the country. My friend graduated with a really high GPA and a minor in Arabic. Took 4 years of Arabic. Went to 5 different Arabic speaking countries for work, and all of them were like laughing at him. They were like, "You don't speak actual Arabic." So going there is super valuable, and just doing it every day.
No, that's absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like constant exposure is important, and the more you have of that, and the more it's like you're gonna understand what you're doing and saying.
Yeah, it's very important to be able to just realize that you have your own biases by being in a place where you've been your whole life, and that if you go somewhere else in the world, you're going to discover a lot more about the world than you ever could from being in one spot. It goes back to one of the sayings where, like, why do birds stay in the same nest if they can fly? Well, we have planes, we can fly, we can go anywhere, and we choose to be comfortable. I think it's a great idea for a lot of people to get out of their comfort
zones. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. To learn something else besides their own headspace and where they live.
Yeah.
Get laughed at so much.
That's
the best thing.
By foreign people?
By
anybody, everybody?
By native speakers in other languages. Because there's nothing more valuable than me thinking for a whole night that I was asking which way is the boat in Spanish, and saying, I think I was saying like whose boat is right here. And they were like, we're at a bar. There's no bar here, or there's no boat. But I really thought that I was asking where the boat was. And about 2 hours of people laughing at me taught me that is not what that means in Spanish. But yeah, it's so valuable to get laughed at and talk to people. And then when you say something that you might have learned in a classroom, they're like, those are the correct words, but not quite. Like, that's the little nuance. That's the value in. Don't get laughed at in other countries. It's a good time.
Final words?
Language is always important. I think that if you can learn it, if you don't have the opportunity to go to another foreign language, a university, I mean, HCC is so cheap. Going to Europe is not. So, I mean, language is always going to be valuable. It's great training for your brain, if nothing else. So, whichever way you can get it, get it. But like Noah said, have a plan, have an end goal. But I think that that is transmissible to any degree. I don't think anyone should just go get a degree in bio for the sake of bio. Like, what at the end of the day is the career that you want? How are you going to use it? And then take the steps you need to get there, you know? So just like anything else, but it's always important.
All right, that makes sense. Thanks, guys. Yeah, appreciate it.